Hi friends, we are headed towards the end of our 30-day challenge of spending just 15 minutes in the garden, which means that you can grow your own food with very limited amount of time. Well, today we're actually back in the house, and the reason for that is I wanted to show you something that one of my viewers told me about. I had no idea. My mind is officially blown. As many of you know, I use my Aerogarden to start tomato seedlings and pepper seedlings because I do tend to have a hard time starting them outside, and I don't have grow lights and a traditional like warming tray and things like that inside. I have the Aerogarden, and it has worked out great for me. The only downside is it only holds 6 pods, and the pods are these little things right here. Once again, a downside, you have to buy these. But it only holds 6 of them, so I can only start 6 plants at a time. For us, 6 pepper plants or 6 tomato plants is far sufficient. It's all we need. But I've been wanting to try some of the vegetables during the winter season that I have struggled with. I wanted to be able to grow Brussels sprouts super fast. Now, I've grown Brussels sprouts in the past, and they have grown, and I've gotten these itty bitty tiny heads, and then after I get the itty bitty tiny heads, then they blow out. So I know I'm not getting my timing right, and it's very hard to time them because they have kind of a long growing season. So I'm like, if I can grow them up quick and fast, and I can prove to myself that I can grow them up quick and fast and healthy, and that I can transplant them with ease like most of these guys do, then maybe I can get a head start with that. Also, as some of you know, during Hurricane Ian, I lost a bunch of seedlings. So even though I had started super early, I am now a bit behind because all my seedlings had died, except for the ones that were inside the house. So I did have some backups, but not near the amount that I need, and I have been starting some. But I do know that whenever I start seedlings in the Aerogarden, that it really speeds up their maturity. So today what I wanted to do was tell you what one of my viewers told me about, which is this little thing called a seed starting tray from Aerogarden. This is actually the same tray that's in the top of the Aerogarden. This is a Harvest Aerogarden, but they make these for the different models. They have like, I think 3 or 4 different models that they make these for. And as you can see, there's a lot more than 6 pods. There's 23 pods. And another cool thing it has is instead of those little plastic housings that the foam, the little foam pellet comes in, it actually has that as part of the plastic that's actually the top piece, which I think is cool. So it'll hold it in place really well. This is not designed to grow 23 plants to their maturity. This is designed for seed starting. So I'm really excited to try this. I know that it's going to do well. But first, before we do anything, we have got to get these guys out of here. Now I'm just going to gently remove these guys. And for the moment, I'm just going to lay them in some pots. I will add dirt to them later. Now we're going to get this all cleaned up. Now there's 2 things that Aerogarden recommends when you're going to be using their seed starting kit. The first is that you soak the pods for at least 24 hours. So these guys have been soaking in this bowl for 24 hours. The other thing it recommends is to remove this little piece. You're going to want to save this because you need this for your regular Aerogarden. On the tray here, I'm going to lift off this little metal piece. This is where I'm going, or little rubber piece. And this is where I'm going to actually pour the water when I'm done. You could pour the water in advance. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place each sponge in its little spot. Now there's 2 things that I've noticed with this Aerogarden seed starting kit as opposed to a regular Aerogarden, which is number 1, there is no labeling that you can put over these guys. The other thing that I noticed is they don't come with the little humidity domes, which I think are really necessary. The next thing I'm going to be using is these little pair of tweezers to be able to move my seeds into the little slot. I'm going to start with a couple kale seeds in the corner. Now normally I don't use tweezers for this type of thing, but being as these guys are so close together, I don't want to mess up and drop them in the wrong hole and not know where I'm at later on. Now let's get the rest of the seeds in the pods. I'm Patrina and this is Homegrown Florida. If you could please hit that like and subscribe button, this would really help to give me feedback on the types of videos you might want to see more of. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the little plastic caps and then I'm going to fill it up with water. They don't seem to fit perfectly. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add some of those over top. Then I'm actually going to take some cling wrap. I didn't want to cling wrap over top of the seeds directly because I feel like that will hurt the air. But if I just gently put the cling wrap around it. Now to fill with water, you're going to need two things. Obviously water and a cup. And we're going to want to fill the cap of this up twice. And that's for any Aerogarden. That's just their liquid plant food. You don't have to use their plant food. You could use your own. So I'll lift this up. So now we're going to lower the light. We're going to plug it back in. And we're going to see how well this works for starting seeds. It has been 10 days since we planted this Aerogarden Harvest seed starting tray. So I wanted to show you how this little experiment went and my opinion on whether this is a good investment or not. First, let's check out the seedlings. Of the 23 pods, I got 14 to germinate. That is a 60% germination rate. This is a pretty big con to me, especially given I seeded the pods with at least 2 or 3 seeds each. I'm also pretty certain that this is a problem with the actual seed starting tray design and not anything else, given that I used many different kinds of seeds from different sources. I also always did 2 of the same seeds in 2 separate pods just to test this, since germination was a big factor for me when using this seed starting tray. What I noticed was one pod did germinate and another one did not. My best guess is that since the seed starting kit doesn't have labels or plastic domes that fit, this caused the tops of the pods to dry out, which limited the germination. I have come up with a solution for this in the future though. I got takeout the other day, which is something I rarely do, but this must have been fake because this little clear plastic top of the takeout tray fits perfectly over the seed starting kit. I do have to cut it a little bit to take into account for the middle piece here, but I think this will probably fix the dome problem I'm having. I'm going to be trying this little experiment again with this new makeshift dome, so I'll keep you updated on that. The other big con that I can see is that these pods are not reusable. Once these plants are a little older, I will transplant them out into the garden and the pods will go into the ground where it will eventually break down. So you do have to keep buying these. And the Aerogarden ones are pretty expensive, especially when you need 23 for the seed starting tray. But I did find a generic version on Amazon that seems to fit perfectly and works exactly the same for a much better price. So I'll add those into the description below in case you want to give them a try. It wouldn't be fair of me to just discuss the cons without talking about the pros. And I have to say there are a lot of pros. First, this has got to be the easiest way to start seeds. It takes me like 5 minutes to start these seeds and I pretty much have walked away for the last 10 days. And in 2 more weeks, they'll be ready to transplant with no intervention from me whatsoever. No worries about watering or fertilizing or getting enough light, all that while making sure the sun isn't too hot for them outside. Seedlings can be high maintenance, but it is the price we pay to grow our own food for the least cost. I didn't need to buy them grow lights, warming trays, shelving units, or seed starting mix. I didn't need to set up light timers or monitor the temperature or moisture levels of the plants. I actually almost forgot about them. That's how easy it is. Another big pro was that the seedlings that did germinate are very healthy. That is one of my big takeaways when I started growing my tomato plants in the Aerogarden a long time ago. They have the absolute perfect environment without any outside influence. So these guys are always very healthy. And I know from past experience that when I transplant these out into the garden, they always do super well. They're usually my happiest and healthiest plants, so I'm excited for these ones that did germinate. Another really good pro for the product is how easy it is to start these super hard to germinate seeds. The ones that take like 3 weeks to germinate and have to be at a perfect 68 degrees while being perfectly moist but not waterlogged. The Aerogarden does exactly that, and since it does it so perfectly, everything sprouts super early. Besides this experiment, I usually only have to use 1 seed per pod. So for the seeds that you've always wanted to grow but you can never seem to get them to germinate any other way, this is always my method for success. So the big question, would I recommend buying this product? Even with the poor germination and the cost of replacing the pods, I do plan on using this product again. So I would say that if you already own an Aerogarden, this would probably be a good add-on for those hard to germinate seeds. But make sure that you have some kind of homemade solution ready for a humidity dome for the tray. I'm almost certain that this will resolve my germination issues. Check out this video here on how I always start my tomato seedlings in the Aerogarden to speed up the germination and growth of super healthy tomato plants.